Nurtured knows how essential it is for your baby gear to fit seamlessly into your lifestyle. Trust me, they are the local experts you need here in Atlantic Canada. From my personal experience, I can say that their team is incredibly knowledgeable. It honestly took me a few visits to fully understand what I needed in my stroller, and they are very patient and helpful in every step of the process. When it comes to a major purchase like a stroller, you want to feel comfortable and confident. And I couldn't be happier with my choice in the Uppa Baby Vista. It's the same stroller I've been using since the beginning and continue to use it as my son grows. And they've actually recently released the latest version of the Uppa Baby Vista 3. You have to check it out. It's so beautiful. Nurtured offers Canada-wide shipping and local delivery within Halifax. You can shop online today at nurtured.ca or stop by their store in the north end of Halifax. Caley Dimmock, welcome to the Mom Existence.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You're excited? Yeah, you're one of my first guests, so this is so exciting.
Yeah, this is going to be good. It's going to be a fun chat.
Yeah. How's your day going? So far?
Pretty good.
We're recording in the morning.
It's just starting, except from a little Halifax parking incident, but you know how it goes.
Traffic parking is the name of the game coming downtown.
Yeah.
But you've been busy. I feel like I've seen you on social media. You've been speaking, you've been traveling, you've been gardening, momming.
The gardening, yes. Yeah. I've been keeping busy, but it doesn't feel busy, you know, it feels good. I think that's the gardening
Is
part.
that like the therapeutic part?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. It's
that's like your hobby.
Yeah, it's new. I just started this year. You don't like it?
Well, I had a garden once and I think I planted everything really close together, which I didn't understand kind of when stuff started to grow.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't believe sounds so stupid, but like the mess. Like trying to take the lettuce out and clean it was impossible. I felt like it was I made it soggy. I don't know. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. So I only took this on because I was like, okay, my summer, I'm not going to have a single call like in my business. I'm going to take it really slow, like no client calls, no like programs, nothing. Doing a couple little speaking things, but I was like, okay, I can take this on because it's a lot of learning. So like if you plant stuff close together, like it's cool to put the seeds all close together, but then you have to make sure you go back in once the seedlings are a certain height, and then you have to clip some of them. You have to like sacrifice some of them so then the other ones. Yeah, that's the key. That's the key. But there's a lot to learn. I know for me, and I know we were talking about getting into this anyway, but I have ADHD, right? So for gardening, it's fun for me because there's always something new to learn. There's always a surprise. I don't know how things are going to go. It's like it hits the dopamine. It's also super calming. Like
it is nice probably to be outside. You're in nature. Like you're, seeing things come to life too that you've created, which is super cool. But no, I can appreciate it.
Yeah, fair.
But I don't know, maybe someday. I don't know. Not right now. But can you just tell us a little bit about, like, you're an entrepreneur, you're a self-motivator, let's just say, you're a mom, but kind of like what you do day to day and, what keeps you busy from 9 to 5? I guess not 9 to 5, probably.
Yeah,
24/7.
It's so different every day now. And I really love that. But yeah, I guess for the, career business side, I have my own business. I've had my own business now since 2017. And I love it. It's incredible. So I do a variety of different things. I run Done For You digital ads for a number of clients, some local, some across the globe, which is really cool. I also mentor business owners as well in a few different key areas of business. And then I also have some group programs. So I'm also teaching people how to kind of do what I've been able to do as well. So that's on the business side. Everything's going really great. I have no complaints over there. It's incredible. I know when we first
spoke.
Is it just
you? Like, do you have a team?
Yeah, so it's me, and I have 3 part-time contractors. Okay. So my contractors have their own businesses as well, but I'm their client, but they're like on my team. Like we have a team Slack and everything. Okay. So I have a COO essentially. Thank God for her. She's such a lifesaver. She basically makes it so that I can really turn my brain off in the areas that tax it or exhaust it and just really focus on the few key things that I need to do, right? And that's like community, focusing on my clients, focusing on facilitation, focusing on using my voice and continuing to build my personal brand. So she's incredible. She takes care of all the logistical stuff. And then she manages a virtual assistant as well. So that's another key piece. Like I don't have to really manage, which is such a game changer, having the COO in place. And then I also have an ads assistant who helps me out with reporting. So client reporting. I used to do all my own client reporting. And it would take me so much time at the beginning and halfway through every month that I used to dread it so much. So what I did is I hired somebody who had been through one of my ads programs to say, hey, I will pay you to help me out with the reporting every month because you essentially just need to fill in these templates.
Yeah, I've taught you everything already.
She's been, and like if I need her to set up an ad campaign for somebody super quick, she's on it. She's incredible. So I'm very lucky. I wouldn't be able to spend half my day gardening right now if I didn't have my team. Like there's no way. There's no way. And I probably wouldn't be able to be here right now either.
That's good. It's so nice when you can actually just do what you love and do the things that you enjoy in that kind of like work environment and kind of offload some of it to someone else. And that's why, having a team is important. Because I feel like I see you doing so much and you're always like very active on social media. So I'm happy there are people behind the scenes helping you. It's not just you.
Yeah, that would feel so nutty. I think especially with motherhood, right? Because that's the other part of my day. And it just wouldn't be possible. It would not be possible without my team to have the business that I have the satisfaction in my business that I have. I think that's a key thing. The satisfaction in my business only continues to grow.
That's good.
And be a super present mom and be able to garden. Like to be able to do all of that, I do get that question a lot. How are you doing it all? And it's like, well, I have support and I'm realistic about what I can and can't take on. And, I started my business, 7 years ago. And it was in the realm that I already had corporate experience in. So I really had a lot of that groundwork laid before I even had my kid,
Yeah. No, that's important because that could be hard. So what was it like for you, I guess, stepping into motherhood at first? I know we talked about it when we chatted, like you had a really crazy pregnancy. I guess we could start there. But I was just thinking like stepping into motherhood, trying to keep your business going and stay involved in that, but also kind of being present and trying to enjoy the first few weeks and first few months because it's hard. It's really hard to do it all. You need to give so much attention to this little human being. So I'm just trying, I like shut my brain off. I was like, nope, can't do, like, did you do that? Or were you kind of still pretty present in your work day to day?
No, so that's a really good question. What I ended up doing is I didn't have a full team kind of like I do now back then, but I did have a virtual assistant.
Because your daughter's, how old's your daughter? Sorry?
She's about to turn 3 in a couple of months.
Wow.
So, yeah. How did that happen? Yeah. So back then when I was pregnant, I had a virtual assistant in my business and I spent a lot of time when I was pregnant putting systems and writing operating procedures and all this so that she could step in and be essentially the account manager. So she would liaise between my clients. And I hired 3 contractors who had been through my ads program at that time. I hired them and they stepped in and I basically matched them with the different accounts that I knew that they had aptitudes for, the industries. And everything ran super smoothly for 3 months. So I took 3 months off when my daughter came. And then I went back part-time for about a month. And then I really went back in. I think it was about 4 months after I had her. So it was still pretty fast for sure. I was, however, I was on my laptop while I was being induced.
What?
Because yes, so, and I'm not.
Did you know you
I'm
were
not
being
proud of that.
induced? No. Okay.
No, I didn't. So I had my daughter 3 weeks ahead of her due date.
I mean, it can be a really long process. So
it was a very long process.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a very long process. But, like I had my daughter 3 weeks early because I had developed preeclampsia. So I went from thinking, I have 3 more weeks to, you have to have this baby within like a moment. There was no time, you go to the hospital because of this or that. And then you're told, you're not leaving. Like you're not going back home.
Right. Did you have a bag with you or anything or you were semi-prepared?
I don't even know if I did, to be honest. I don't think I did.
So that's just like hitting you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, I don't think I did. Yeah, I was really completely not expecting it. The day before, I was sealing flooring at a property that I have. I was sealing flooring. Like I was, rolling on the protectant of the, and the next day I'm being
I think
induced.
I saw you post about this recently.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah. Okay. So you have this property too. So you're dealing with that.
Yeah. Oh,
you
yeah.
feel
that
fine?
was a whole
Did you feel
thing.
fine? Like when you're doing that?
I mean, my whole pregnancy, I did not feel fine. So I really was just in a state of thinking, oh, maybe this is normal. Maybe this is what everybody kind of experiences.
End of my pregnancy.
And I just really overlooked a lot of things. And now when I look back at videos of myself from that time, I was like, holy smokes, my whole face was swollen.
And that's a sign
month.
of...
Oh, it's a major sign. Yeah. But I wasn't aware because you see yourself every day.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back, I'm like, wow. And I'm really lucky that I ended up suspecting when I suspected, because I went and had my blood pressure taken and it was sky high, like astronomical.
And is that what it is? Can you just explain in case people have no idea?
Yeah. So it's technically, I think they categorize it as a hypertensive disorder of pregnancy. I think that's the technical wording.
Sounds a little scary.
So it's when your blood pressure ends up going quite high, which can cause a whole lot of different symptoms. And to be honest, I don't even fully still understand preeclampsia. And I had preeclampsia and then I had eclampsia, which is when it comes back after you deliver, which is very rare.
I've never heard of that.
Very scary. Very scary. I had a pretty rough postpartum period. Mm-hmm. And I don't even fully understand still to this day how exactly it develops or works. But things were pretty scary. I mean, I'm pretty sure I remember my liver values, I think, were like 4 times what they were supposed to be. Like I was on the edge of like liver failure, like organ failure. Yeah.
This is like serious.
Yeah.
Because you hear about it and then is bed rest sometimes, I guess if it happens earlier, it's associated with that. Like you're kind of down and out, right?
Yeah. If you do get diagnosed with it earlier, I think the protocol is typically bed rest and very close monitoring to try to see how far you can carry, because obviously nobody wants to have to birth like preterm or whatever. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that is the protocol. And then for me, I think when I had my blood pressure taken that day where I was really like, something is, feeling off here, I think I was 37 and a half weeks. Yeah, 36 and a half weeks.
Okay.
36 and a half. So
you still had a few weeks to
I still had a few weeks to go. It wasn't ideal. I mean, Harley was born 6 pounds, 1 ounce. So, quite tiny. Mm-hmm. And then she was under the light for jaundice to get the bilirubin levels down for another, I think, 5 days. We were in the hospital for like 9 or 10 days.
Okay.
So yeah, I was not expecting it.
Yeah.
But you know what? I was on my laptop being induced, and I just said to my VA at the time, I was like, "It's happening," and she was just like, "Caley, get off the laptop. I've got it." And it was very difficult for me. I am somebody who has such a level of control that I want. Mm-hmm. And so to be like, I have no choice. Literally, I have to surrender here.
This is the time.
I have to surrender because, the contractions that you can have from induction, like.
I was induced as well.
Were you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you have any pain meds though? Like for?
I was silly. So for some reason, I thought that I could do without, and I don't think I fully understood the difference between induction contractions and natural contractions.
Because they come on so much stronger. I think.
It's such a different
really like
ball
tricking
game.
Your body into
it's labor. Such a different ball game. Such a different ball game. And then I ended up, I think I was 32 hours in at this point, maybe even further, maybe 34 hours. And then I was like, okay, I need an epidural.
Okay, so you got one.
I did, but it
didn't work.
It didn't work. And then they were like, they were trying to adjust it. And then they checked me again. They were like, oh, it's not working because you're about ready to push.
Right.
So, just like, thinking back, I'm like, I hope I never have such a hectic time again. You know what I mean? Just the
and
rushing,
you lose so
and
much control. And I had a doula, which was great to have that extra support, but you kind of just are at the mercy of like what's happening. And obviously they're professionals and they're awesome at the IWK, but and that's more traumatic than what I went through. But it's like, it's scary because you're bringing a human into the world and you're just like, am I okay? Are they okay? I remember having those moments a few times, just like, you're in a vulnerable state and position, literally, and it's scary.
Yeah, it is really scary. I think not having gone through it before, if I were to have another kid, I think the whole experience would be so different, just having gone through it once. But when you've never gone through it,
you have no idea.
You have no idea. And you hear from some people, oh, like they had the smoothest experience, best pregnancy, easy delivery.
Like floated out the next day of the hospital. No, not
exactly.
me. I felt like crazy.
And then you hear from other people, you do hear these really tough stories. And I had tried to just keep telling myself that I was going to have it good, have it good, have it good. And then when everything flipped upside down, it was really tough. It was really, really tough. And things kind of stayed tough for a while. Like with my daughter as a newborn, they weren't easy. Not to scare anybody who might be pregnant listening. You never know what you're going to get. And I do think that I always say to my friends who have a really smooth pregnancy, really smooth delivery, really smooth like newborn phase, I would say you are the humans who are meant to continue the race. You are the people who are meant to have 3 or 4 babies
through this experience by some guidance.
Because a lot of people, I mean, for me, I'm not going to lie, it's a major factor in thinking if I want another. Could I?
Because of the difficulty.
Yes. Yeah. And mentally for me, my entire pregnancy was extremely challenging, challenging. So I look back
because
at
you didn't like being pregnant or just you didn't feel great?
I felt terrible. I had really terrible nausea. I mean, the first 3-4 months, I basically had 1 hour a day where I could get out of bed and just get some work done.
Yeah. That's hard. Yeah.
And then after that, all the pain started happening. So I have hypermobility, where all of my ligaments are already loose. My body doesn't stay together very well anyway. I will walk down the street sometimes and my ankle just rolls and I collapse kind of thing. Yeah. So when I was pregnant, as you know, when you're pregnant, your ligaments loosen even more. Yes. I just felt I honestly felt like a meat sack with a bunch of bones
a rubber
trying
noodle.
To stay together. Yeah. And it was very painful, closer to the end, I had to keep going to Cairo every 2 days because I had 2 ribs that were dislocating.
Oh my God.
Like popping out of place. It's
but then if you had or chose, it's so funny because I've heard this from people that have had multiple children.
Yeah.
And their pregnancies and birth are so different. But it's hard to know because if that happens again.
Feels like roulette, man.
It's torture. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I'm so glad that I went through it all. My daughter's by far the best thing that's ever happened for me in my life. And I think that says a lot because I think I've done and experienced and seen quite a few awesome things. There's nothing that matches that for me.
Nothing.
And there will never be anything. And I know that. And I look at it, I'm like, would I like to have another kid? And I'm like, yeah, I probably would. And knowing my mental health and how vulnerable that is, knowing my body, knowing the fact that I still don't feel 100% healthy since my experience with eclampsia, I'm like, am I jeopardizing me being the best and most available mom to the kid I already have?
Yeah.
And she's super happy. She, I think that choice is so personal. That's something that comes up a lot. I don't know about if you're having that question already. Are you?
I do. Yeah. I'll hear someone will ask my mom. People don't ask me. It's indirect, but people kind of start to tell you shouldn't wait too long, or are you going to give them a sibling? And I'm kind of like, yes, I'm with you. Yes, I would like to because you love them and you want to perhaps have a little forever friend for them. But then at the same time, I'm like, can I mentally do this again? My pregnancy was fine. I have no complaints, thank God. But just the mental load after that, I knew it would be hard, but I didn't know how hard and taxing it would be on my mental health. Yeah. But that's kind of what I want to talk about. You mentioned the ADHD. When that you were diagnosed with that, when did that kind of come up for you, or like how did that
Mm-hmm.
change kind of who you are today? Because I know it was more recently, right?
Yeah, I was diagnosed when I was pregnant, so 2021. And it's so interesting to me looking, every time I talk about this, I get this visual of this timeline and just looking at all these instances of my life that finally make sense and feeling so let down in other areas or by systems, you know. What ended up happening is I was really struggling with my mental health when I was pregnant, like really, really, really low. So I was working with the midwives here. Incredible. They referred me to a psychiatrist at the IWK. She was also incredible. And we had been doing our check-ins, and a lot of the symptoms that I was having and a lot of things that were all of a sudden amplifying, I really couldn't cope with. Like I was beyond my what I call coping threshold.
Right.
I didn't have the toolkit, even though I consider myself quite resourced. I've done a lot in that area of trying to help myself get through tough times and have those tools. But I was just beyond, So we were talking, and it's another thing very controversial, like medication in pregnancy. Holy smokes, what a controversial thing. But I was in a place where I had to. I had to have some support in, obviously the safest way possible for my baby. And there was a medication that I was on, and we were talking about it and evaluating it. And, she said to me at one point, she said, "So this medication is not making your anxiety worse?" And I was like, "No, it's making everything better, everything better." And she was like, "Huh." And then I think she started connecting the dots with my symptoms, with my history, and probably even honestly with how I was presenting myself.
Right.
And she said, "That's so interesting because for most people, this specific medication helps with depression, but it amplifies anxiety."
Okay.
And this is very common for this. However,
because were you experiencing that as well? Like a bit of anxiety?
I had in the past.
Okay.
Yeah. And she said the one kind of group of people who it affects them like you do is usually people who have ADHD.
Okay.
Because it's off-label treatment for ADHD. And when she said that, I was like, hold up. And then it was like somebody had just all of a sudden pulled back these curtains to this whole other possibility, because I'd been through the gamut when it came to mental health diagnosis and all this.
And that never crossed your mind?
Never once.
Really? Okay.
And funnily enough, everything else that had been hinted by professionals, like, oh, you probably are dealing with this or you might be dealing with that, I never felt like it fit. I always was like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, but even with depression, anxiety, I'm like, yeah, but even when I'm down, like I'm not down all the time. Even when I'm anxious, I'm not anxious all the time. And it's always tied to a life event. And I'm like, it doesn't really add up. Or like other things that had been thrown my way too. I was like, it doesn't really add up. But as soon as she started talking to me about this and how it seems to be presenting for me, I was like, whoa. Because I think you and I talked about this before. When I thought of ADHD, I was seeing images of little boys from my class in kindergarten who were little,
bouncing off the wall,
causing issues, right? Or just disturbing the class or whatever. We all have these, I can think back. I can see the kids who I would have been like, oh yeah, like
they're hyper,
be dealing with ADHD.
Yeah.
Right. I had no idea. And then now looking back, and the fact that I was completely inattentive my whole school life. I mean, I don't think I remember math class, grade 8. Like I had a book that I was just doing like fashion drawings in the whole time. I was never paying attention, but I was
you
lucky.
Probably thought that like, oh, I'm just not good at math, or I don't like school.
No, so for me, it was kind of, I had a really weird mix of things going on, and this is why I think I got missed. So I am one of those weirdos with calculator brain.
Okay. Lucky.
So I know. Lucky and not at the same time.
I have the opposite.
Yeah, fair. Yeah. It can be a little distracting at time, I won't lie. Right. Sometimes my brain just literally starts calculating things.
Okay.
It's so weird. And I love math. I'm not going to lie. I do like it. Yeah. But, for school, I was lucky because I didn't have to pay attention. You know, in math class, I would just watch the like review and then write the test, and I'd ace it.
Okay.
Because I had a natural aptitude.
Right.
So I was perpetually bored in spaces like that. So I would just, you know, draw all class, or when it came to high school, I just started skipping class, period.
Right.
Like I would just skip class constantly. I would stay home half the day. And I think a lot of people's parents may not have allowed them to do that. My dad was kind of in a weird place because we had just lost my mom like a couple years prior. So he was really struggling mentally. And so he would like call and excuse me because he knew my grades were good. So he was just like, yeah, whatever. Like she
doesn't need to be there.
He was just, you know,
yeah.
I mean, he dropped out of school in grade 7 for other reasons. And then when he met my stepmom would call and start excusing me from class too. But for her, it was more of a, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like you're doing great.
Yeah,
why do you need to?
Beyond.
Yeah. And I was struggling with mental health too. So they were kind of aware of that. And they wanted to kind of, make sure that they were helping me out. And if I was like, oh, like I'm really bummed out, like I need to stay in bed for a couple hours, like they helped me with that, which is actually kind of cool thinking back.
They didn't like force you.
Yeah. But now when I look back at all of that time, I'm like, this is so clearly ADHD. I was so struggling to meet the needs of going to the school and sitting there. Like I look at it and I'm like, okay, I wasn't disruptive, but I still couldn't sit there.
Right.
I couldn't sit there and whatever. I was perpetually bored.
You needed to be challenged.
Yeah.
In a different way.
Yeah, exactly. And then even now looking at so many areas of my life where it's become so much more obvious. So, somebody may look at me and, you may look at me and say, oh, you're doing so much. Like you're doing the speaking gigs, you got this business, you're gardening, you're, mom. I struggle so much with executive function. And I don't know do you know what that is? Executive function. A lot of people don't if they haven't had ADHD. So it's, kind of system in your brain that is what allows you to make basic day-to-day decisions and get
like focus or something. I don't know.
A little bit different. I mean, I think there is executive function involved in focus. I think I'd have to ask like a psychiatrist, but yeah, like little decisions, like deciding what you're going to eat or what you're going to wear,
right?
Or getting laundry done, stuff like that. So I struggle big time with stuff like that. And I definitely thought becoming a mom would make all of that worse. I was like, oh boy, like I was.
Yeah, because there's way more of those decisions that need to be made for someone else.
I was so nervous. And I think when I was diagnosed with ADHD in pregnancy and everything kind of started coming to the foreground for me, I think I became really nervous around how I was going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to feed them? What am I going to put on them if I can't decide for myself? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. Interestingly enough, though, having my daughter help me.
Really?
Because it gave me structure. Because I've noticed that I'm really good at making sure that others get their needs met. I'm really good at that. It's probably why I do well in my business, to be honest.
Yeah. It's not yourself.
Yeah, it's just not me. Okay. Not in my own brain. My own brain is too chaotic and cluttered for that.
So you can make decisions for other people.
Yeah.
Just harder for yourself.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, big time. I'm getting better at it. I think taking the pressure away from the decisions and realizing like half the time it doesn't actually matter which one you choose.
Yeah.
But it's still hard. Like,
oh my God, yes. Yeah. And that's just got to be a little scary. Like you're having a tough time in your pregnancy. You get diagnosed with that. Now you're worried or more sensitive to the fact that, you're going to have to take that on and take care of this human. But the structure is something that really keeps you
It ended
grounded,
up helping me.
Yeah,
it ended up helping me for sure. Because when somebody else, for me anyway, everybody's experience is completely unique. Like everybody who has ADHD or everybody who has executive function issues, it's so unique. But for me, if I'm like, okay, my daughter needs to be here by this time, I know, like I do the mental math, like, and I reverse that. I'm okay. So that means I need to have this decision made by this time and do this and do that. And then I really just make sure that I have things in place that make it all easier for me. So for example, like if I know, and my daughter is actually quite similar to me, which helps. I feel like I really understand her. It's cool.
I get you.
Yeah. We're like little besties. It's awesome. So I know that she's got like her few things that she likes to eat on repeat, and I know that she's got her few dresses that she likes to wear on repeat. So it makes it easier for me because I'm like, okay, right now I just need to know that I've got these few things on hand.
She's going to want them.
You got to have a clean dress. and we're good. You know,
Yeah.
everything else I can figure out, but it's been a lot. It's been a lot easier than I could have imagined on that front. It was very difficult when she was really little, though, because
Yeah.
you know,
Well, there's no
sleep,
schedule. Yeah.
no schedule, and the
It's
sleeping stuff,
unpredictable.
and like that for me, that was like, whoa.
Yeah. And I think that's when, like, us as well, women or parents in that new stage, it's just so hard anyway on your mental health because
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there are some people and friends, like you had mentioned, that kind of just walk into it or labor and it's fine. But like, I don't know that many of those people.
I don't either.
It's crazy.
I don't either.
Or some people I really struggled with the visitors and people wanting to reach out like that to me. And I love these people. Some of them are family and friends, but I did not want to see anyone. And Cash was born in February. It was kind of like cold, wintry. I just wanted to put our fireplace on and nestle inside and like get to know this little human with my husband. So I found that really hard. I would cry all the time. Like I didn't want to visit her. And I wish now I would have just like put that out. But I know people feel, I don't want to say entitled. That's not the right word, but feel the need.
I think sometimes, depending on the person, it is the right word.
Yeah. Okay.
Depending on the person.
But that they, I don't know. That was really hard. I remember getting home from the hospital. My parents, I knew they wanted to come. They were kind of waiting. And I was like, yes, come. Because I'm thinking like, I don't even want to bring our bags in from the hospital and unpack them. Like I need someone to help me.
Yeah.
And then like my in-laws came, which was fine. My friend Sarah, you know, she didn't want to come in. She dropped off food and my mom was like, come in. And I remember like crying when they were all there, just being like, I'm so tired. I talked about this with Steph the other day. It's like waiting to get induced, getting called in for that I didn't sleep. And then you're laboring. He was born at 5:30 in the morning. And then I stayed in the hospital for 2 more nights. So you're not sleeping. No. So right out of the gate, you're already starting off on like 0%, you know? Yeah. And then you have to actually like do the things and figure out if you're going to breastfeed or how. And it's hard. It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah. One thing that we did and I only did this because I was struggling so much in pregnancy. My mental health was already like, I was 0 in the tank before I even got to induction, I would say. Wow. So I said to my partner, I said, we are going to communicate with everybody ahead of time. Smart. That we are not accepting any visitors for a set amount of time.
And was he okay with that? Because I feel like it's a bit different for guys. Like they don't, because Jeff was kind of like, oh, like, so-and-so's just going to drop over if it's okay. Yeah. Like, it's not okay. Yeah. Like, I don't want to.
It's such a different experience for them, right? Because they're not in our bodies. They're not in our minds. They're not the ones going through it. And I think he was understanding. However, when it came to him communicating that boundary on my behalf to people on his side, he definitely struggled a bit with that, right?
Because it's such an exciting time. And I feel like he's not in your brain and body. It's really hard for them to understand it fully.
It is big time. And I definitely got, I mean, it was difficult. Not everybody reacted well to it. It was interesting though, because I think because I had struggled with mental health in my pregnancy, and even at times before that, like when my dad was passing away and stuff, like years before that, I really had identified the people in my life who I knew would be safe for me mentally, from a nervous system perspective, and would be understanding and would want to help in the way that I felt was helpful. Right. So I had so many people, and thank God, I think back to this, I had so many people just drop stuff off outside the door, and they would say ahead of time, they say, I don't need to see you. I don't need to see your daughter. I know that time will come. My biggest concern right now is making sure that I'm just helping you in a way that is helpful. One of my friends dropped off like frozen burritos outside the door. Another friend dropped off a card with a gift card for cleaner and Uber Eats. And that person didn't even have kids. And I was like, she knew. I was like, that is the best, you know?
And doesn't it make you kind of reflect on when people you knew or know or friends had babies and like I didn't do
I'm like,
now I'm like, oh, I feel like such a shit person. And I say this to my husband, I'm like, if we go and visit anyone and they've just had a baby, like we need to at least bring, I don't even care if it's a loaf of bread and bananas from the Irving. Like you need to bring something.
We need to bring food.
They're in desperate mode.
Yeah. We need to bring food. We need to bring coffee. And when I'm there, I'm going to start doing dishes. I'm going to do their laundry. Like,
you don't need to come PSA to just hold the baby.
Yeah.
You know, like, no. I mean, you can maybe, but like do some other shit first.
Yeah.
I remember how exhausting, like I tried to breastfeed. didn't work out. So
Same.
Formula.
Didn't work for me. Yeah.
And like, I'm really on top of household duties. Like I'm insane. Like my house is just always, that just mentally helps me feel more clear and satisfied. But trying to keep up with the bottle washing and sanitizing is like, it seems like you're swimming against like the tide, the stream, I don't know, the current. It's hard. I'm like, I just want someone to come over and like, I remember asking my cleaner once, like, are there other duties you would do? Like change my sheets, wash a few bottles in the sink. And she, God love her, did. But those are just things I'm like, I cannot do these. I can't do it. I don't know why. You just can't.
Because
at the beginning.
It's a lot. I mean, you're still recovering, like in so many ways, and for so much longer, I think, than anybody even knows. And I think that, I don't know, I think in our culture today and in our society today, I think that we've become so disconnected from what a lot of cultures and societies used to do, and still some do, where it's people, they come together to help the mom.
Right.
You know, and now it's more of everybody wants to hold the baby. It's about the baby. Yeah. What about the mom?
Yeah.
You know, there's studies, and I wish I could quote the exact one, but I was just reading about this the other day, how so many developmental outcomes for children are completely like correlated to how the mom is feeling, and like if she's been supported and all that, like if she's given the resources to be able to focus on how she's feeling. Because we're so connected to our kids, right? I mean, I don't know if you learned about this when you first had your baby, like how we like regulate them and we regulate their temperature and all of that. I mean, I remember they used to say to us, like, mom regulates and dad is the heater, right? So if Harley went to lay on Ben, she'd get super warm sometimes, right? Because it's like, oh, like, you know, but with us, like we regulate them, like at
they
first,
were inside of us.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
9 months and apart. They're like literally a part of you.
They are. Yeah. And that doesn't go away like the minute that they're, you know, outside in the outside world.
No.
Yeah.
Come over, pick something up.
Yeah.
Like literally
something.
Sarah had dropped off. She made us like, I always still look back at this moment. She kept us fed as like fruit salads, lasagna, which is like amazing.
Yeah.
You need the carbs.
Oh yeah.
She brought just like tons of snacks, and I think a few days later she like dropped over something else. She loves to cook, and I'm like, I don't know how I would have survived. My doula brought bagels, which were great because again, she's like, you need carbs. Like you're a bottomless pit. Like, I think I was hungrier in those first few weeks than I was at any point in my pregnancy. Like, in the middle of the night, I would need to have snacks because your body is trying to produce milk and do all these things. And you're also in exhaustion, but survival mode. Adrenaline kicks in. I've never experienced adrenaline like that before. Did you experience that?
At first, for a very short period, yeah. But I remember on no sleep watching the sunrise every day and being like, why am I not tired?
Yeah.
It's like, it's adrenaline.
Well, you're on like this high, which I think is kind of fun to ride. But then I remember my brother, he lives in the States, and he happened to be home. He was in PEI for work, and he came like a couple of days after I had the baby, which was amazing timing. And I remember talking to him, and my brain and mouth felt like they were going. Like I felt like I was talking so fast because my adrenaline was just trying to keep me going. And that was, I mean, I loved having him there. But one of the hard things about having like people pop in and visitors was that I didn't even know how to carry a conversation nor did I want to have a conversation. You know what I mean? Yeah. I just want to put on Love Island and drink my coffee and in my pajamas and like hold this little like angel.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that you do. It is a weird time warp isn't the right word, but it's a warp of maybe reality where I remember even when we had visitors a couple weeks after and we have conversations and it's like, wow, I'm so my mind's just so not even there, and it can't even get there right now.
No, you're not the same. You've changed. You're trying to figure out, I feel like, this new life and who you are now. And you just need to hit pause on everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And especially if you have one, or you know, you're experiencing that for the first time, it wouldn't be the same the second time.
No.
You know, it's all new, and you'd have another human being, little baby, like little child, sorry, besides the baby to care for. And you're kind of just more go, 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 and you've been through it. But the first time is just so like special and unique that I remember just wanting to like soak it in and just like enjoy that like homebody kind of vibe, because that's really not me. Like, I like to go outside the house.
Oh, interesting. I was curious about that, if you're like homebody type or not, because that would be such a shift. I know for me, I've always been a homebody, even if I don't come across that way. Like, I just, but I think, and I thought about that a lot. I'm like, wow, people who do really love like going out all the time, or like just being outside the house and like doing things, like socializing especially, right? That is such a huge shift. And I do notice, I don't know about you and your social life, but even for me in my social life, I mean, I think, you know, I'm very prone to overwhelm, and I deal with some kind of like sensory sensitivity stuff as well. So that can kind of aggravate that. And so my social battery since I had my daughter is so low. Like, it's so low. And that is something I feel guilty about a lot, because a lot, like, my social life has completely changed, and a lot of my relationships have changed. But again, I'm very lucky that I think a lot of people really understand, you know, because of that. But for me, it just, like, it felt good to do that, and I kind of continued to do that, you know.
Yeah.
But how is that for you? I mean, I'm kind of interviewing you, but I'm just so curious, because you know, Ben, so my partner is like that, you know, very, very social, very social. And I know that he kind of struggled with that, like, at first too. So how was that like for you? Because you say you're like, oh yeah, I want to soak this up, I really enjoy it. But then are you the kind of person who ended up like bringing cash everywhere, like, with you, or?
Yes and no. At that point, so we live about 20 minutes from downtown now, and I did live more in the downtown core. So I felt like I would get my fix in terms of like putting baby in the stroller, meeting up with my friend Alex, who our babies are only 2 weeks apart, and just like walking and stopping, and we'd sit and have our coffee, because they were only a few months old, and it's just, you know, a lot easier, difficult, but easier then for stuff like that. So I still felt like I got to get out and like feel that energy from, you know, being out and popping in. But I did struggle with kind of the shift in like my new life, and just knowing like I couldn't just hop in the car and like go to Pilates, or I couldn't just hop in the car and like go. And if you did go out for a bit, it just felt different. And you felt like, I felt a lot of anxiety, and I still do. I have to kind of like talk myself back when I go out. Like, I just feel panicked and rushed all the time.
You're on a timeline.
Yeah. And even if I'm not, like yesterday, Jeff took our little guy to his friends. They went and played outside, went in the pool, or like, you know, pretended to go in the pool. And they were gone for a few hours. I had a podcast, and as soon as they left, I immediately was in panic mode of like all the things I needed to do while they were gone. So I find that enjoying some social life is harder. It's just different, and you really have to check yourself to try and be present and enjoy the moments. And sometimes I can, but it's hard. It's not the same.
No, it's not the same at all. You said something there. You said you can't just run out the door to Pilates. And that's something for me that I struggled with, was having to pack everything up. So I think
always,
like, and with ADHD, like, I forget everything all the time anyway. And having to go from, you can just keys, phone, wallet, go out the door, to keys, phone, wallet, diaper bag, wipes, bottles, milk, snacks, like change of clothes,
toys.
Like, what is happening? And I found that very stressful. I think for me, everything really changed once my daughter was like 1.5 years. And then once she was just over 2 and she's like potty trained, and now I'm like, I'm almost there. I love this. I'm like, we just go out the door, you know? And
you're
it's
a big
like,
girl now.
You need a snack, we'll pick one up. You need this, we'll figure it out. You know, it's a whole other And I think kind of like settling into motherhood by now too a bit more. At first, it's, you know, you kind of, I was pretty high anxiety in you know, that first year around my daughter, but hard when they can't talk.
Yeah, I'm at that stage. He can say a lot of words, but it's just, yeah, he can get frustrated. And I also do, because it's just, you're like, I don't know what you want. I'm giving you everything you're pointing at and what I think you might want. And that's just not good.
Yeah.
But I think that, there's just so much developmentally going on for them. And, you know, their emotions are, that's really where those like tantrums come in. So I feel like we're just like dipping our toe in that pool, which is crazy. But I love, the newborn baby stage is like, I loved him. I love snuggling, but it's like, I'm excited for like, hey, let's go get ice cream. And he's like, yay. Now I could say that. And then he goes and does like, you know, Jeff and I get ice cream and give him some. He's not, you know, fully eating ice cream all the time. But then he just goes and starts playing with his truck, or he wants to go on the deck. And I'm like, no, we're going to get ice cream. But they have no idea.
Yeah. That's always tough, right? Getting them out the house, getting them out of the door.
It's crazy.
Yeah. You kind of have to like figure out your own little hacks and your own little
tricks.
Systems. Yeah. It's so true. Yeah.
So just kind of before we wrap up, I want to go back to the mental health. If people are listening, whether they're pregnant or having kids or not, they're just existing as who they are. Like, what kind of advice do you have if people, just in your experience, if people are having some of those signals that you may have said that they think, okay, that's like, you know, yes, that's me. Like, what can they do, or what do you recommend? You know, if people have a hard time coming forward with stuff like this, like, how could they start that journey?
Yeah, I think the biggest first thing would be, don't gaslight yourself.
Yeah.
I think people, especially moms, especially new moms, especially in your first pregnancy, I think it's really easy to do kind of what I did with my physical health, which is where I was like, oh, this must just be normal. This must just be how everyone feels, or it's not bad enough that I need help, or I don't want to take away that care or from somebody else, or I don't want to be a burden, all that kind of stuff. Like, you do have to push that aside and get the help, because if you're having these thoughts, if you're having a feeling like, oh, yeah, this isn't good, or something's off here, or something's changed, that is your signal to lean in, and don't gaslight yourself. Don't minimize it. The next thing that I would say is really look at your care team. I was very lucky because I was working with midwives who are incredibly mindful of mental health, and they were so helpful. So, you know, I had the midwives, and then they referred me to psychiatry at IWK. Incredible experience I had. Incredible experience, like changed the game for me, not just for pregnancy, postpartum, but for my life. I mean, I don't know if I'd be here diagnosed with ADHD if I hadn't have, you know, spoken up and been like, I need help. Like, I am struggling.
Yeah.
If you don't have, you know, midwives or whatever, I mean, I think most people have OBGYN, and, you know, I think the healthcare space is getting better at listening and believing women when we see that we're struggling. But if you bring this up, if you have that courage to bring it up and you are not being listened to, you need to advocate for yourself. You need to fight for that. You need to tell them, like, this is very real for me. And if you are declining that we address this, can you put that on my record? Right? Like, you need to be serious about it, because I mean, like, you know, like postpartum, like in your experience, like, if you don't take it seriously, if you don't advocate for yourself, nobody else knows what it's really like for you. I mean, we even talked about just the way our partners see different things, right? Because nobody else is inside of your brain and in your body. Nobody else knows. You have to be your own advocate. And as exhausting as that can be, because we shouldn't have to, it's worth it, right? Like, it's absolutely worth it. And I think that also, you know, aside from women, there's also special considerations here of, like, you know, people of color, like, are even less listened to when it comes to bringing this stuff up. They are gaslit more by the medical system. I mean, there's been so much research that shows that maternal outcomes for populations like minorities, like, it's way worse even. And I think that if somebody is in this situation themselves, I'd say don't gaslight yourself, advocate. Find people around you who can help support you in advocating as well, because it can feel exhausting. So look at who you've got around you, who you can call on to either support you emotionally or however. And then I think, honestly, as a society, I think our systems still have a long ways to go. So if it is something that you experience and you do eventually come out on the other side of it, and you feel good and you have capacity to do so, I think it's good to be an advocate, you know, and to bring light to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if people are getting declined or feeling that they don't have support in reaching out to whatever professional or whoever, reach out to Caley or I. We will help you. Yes. No problem.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that is important. I think as I get older, and even just hearing you say those things, it's like, you don't need to talk yourself down from feeling a certain way, and it might only be temporary. You might just be going through like a season or a phase that like you need extra help and support, and that's okay. You shouldn't have to suffer for 3 or 4 months because, you know, you're something with your job or your family. It's like, get help. Figure out also, I had a psychologist once that I work with. She was amazing. She moved on to a different career, which I'm so sad about, but she just help you realize like what's going on in your head and your brain, like using certain strategies and tools to kind of like deprogram what your brain wants to, where your brain wants to go, because naturally it goes there and it spins like one thought into like 100 crazy thoughts and you think that they're true, but it's just your brain like doing its thing.
You can't believe everything your brain tells you.
But you think, true. Like I thought for so long, because I was thinking that, it was in my head that those things were true and they're not.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just like, hey, thank you for that thought. I don't need that right now.
Yeah,
and like telling yourself that even out loud and like moving on. But so there are lots of like very attainable little like tools and strategies and people that can help you if you're feeling that way.
100%. I do that all the time. The like, you know, thought comes in, or feeling comes in, I go, thank you. I can tell you're trying to protect me from something.
Yeah.
I don't need you right now, but thank you.
And then your brain's like, oh, okay, now I'm going to go pull something else. And then, it kind of help switch like context, I guess, like for your brain, but it's not easy.
It's not easy. Another really good resource actually that I just thought of that might be really great for your listeners.
Yeah, tell us.
I'd have to double check her exact handle on Instagram, but her name is Kate Borsato. I'll send you her profile.
Yeah, we can
Kate
put it in the show notes.
She helps mothers who are having like anxiety and like going through all of this, and she is a really great resource to follow along. She's Canadian. She's in BC. She actually also runs a business called the Perinatal Collective. I believe that's the name of it. And she has therapists throughout Canada who specialize in helping new moms.
Okay.
I actually worked with one of her therapists here in Nova Scotia. I don't know if she's any longer with them, but I worked with her kind of, it wasn't immediately after, it was like a bit after, because I was still under care at the IWK, but she was really helpful too. I think sometimes it's nice to have that specialized care and with people who really get that lens, you know, because I think it's just such a unique experience and everything that can come with it. And it really helps to work with somebody who really can see and hear you properly in those times too.
Yeah,
but that would be another really good resource to check out.
Definitely. We'll share that for sure. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Caley. This has been so helpful and therapeutic.
I could talk to you all day about this.
Maybe we'll do this again. There's always so much. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks
for having me. And if people want to learn more about kind of what you do or follow you, where's the best place to do that?
I mean, I guess Instagram. It's funny saying that now because it's like so millennial if your go-to is just like Instagram and almost like ages you now, right?
All about the Instagram.
That's really what it is, Instagram. So my Instagram, I have a few, but
do you? Okay.
I do. I have like a lot going on, but the main one is CJ and then Dimmock. So CJ Dimmock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Go follow her there. Thank you.
Thank you so much.